Chapter 16. Anna recognized the strong voice from their years of shared history. Her fingers let go of the sword and she whirled around, staff in hand. Carrie Yang and Lucas Ward stood in the doorway she'd come through, their own staffs ready and poised for battle. She'd thought she'd been too cautious to be followed, but Carrie would have known her destination as soon as she stopped on the transport station's second floor. She felt the modder behind her step back to gain as much distance as possible for the concealment mod to work. Carrie didn't move, but Lucas rotated slowly around her to cut off an escape out the back door. She frowned at her former partner. "What are you doing here, Carrie?" "Following you. Lucas and I were tasked with bringing you in from the transport car, but the way you moved, it looked like you were up to something. We decided to wait and see what you were up to, and of course, I'm aware this is an excellent location for a clandestine meeting." She gestured with her staff. "You need to put your weapon down and have your modder come out of hiding." A growing panic threatened to overwhelm Anna, but she forced herself to remain calm. "You have no idea what's going on. I'll come in, but let the modder go." Carrie shook her head. "I can't do that. Guerrero suspected you of using illegal mods, and now we have proof. I can't believe I never realized that the reason you were so good is because you were cheating." Heat rose in Anna's cheeks. "I didn't do anything wrong. You know me. What I did was necessary to get criminals off the streets." "Sure, and close more cases than anyone else. But it wasn't real, was it? You broke the rules." "We were partners for 10 years, long enough for you to realize I never cared about credit." "Sometimes partners. So much of the time you went off on your own. Now I understand why." Anna felt anger boil in her veins at the bitterness in Carrie's voice. "To protect you. It's one thing for me to make the choice to color outside the lines. It's another to drag my partner in with me." Lucas had flanked her by now and spoke from over her shoulder. "We can't let people take justice into their own hands, no matter how right they think they are." Anna turned to glare at him. "Ask your partner. If I hadn't used mods that the agency was too slow to clear, so many of those cases would have remained open. That's more criminals on the street hurting people." "So you did it for the greater good." "That's the lie people always tell themselves to justify breaking the rules." "The rules don't always keep everyone safe." "I don't trust you to be a good judge of that." Anna stared hard at him, then took a breath and released it slowly. Now was not the time for this argument. "Fine. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I made mistakes along the way. Maybe I should have let some things go." She turned back to Carrie. "But what I can say right now is there's something bigger going on than any of us, and if we continue to claw at each other's throats, it's only going to allow the real threat to go unchallenged." Carrie tilted her head, skepticism in her eyes. "What real threat?" Anna hesitated, unsure of how much to say. She elected to play it straight, feeling she owed Carrie that much. "Jennifer Zhao and 2 men attacked Lisa and me last night in a bank in El Paso." Carrie's eyes narrowed. "I haven't heard anything about that." "We didn't report it. The bank was technically off limits to us, and we weren't sure what the evidence we got from it meant, and I don't trust Guerrero." "Taking matters into your own hands again?" Lucas was still standing by the door, a fact which relieved Anna. If he started searching the room, he'd locate the modder. The concealment mod could only do so much in such a small room. Her grip tightened around her staff as she maintained her focus on Carrie. "Zhao used an MMD weapon without a failsafe. She made this cut on my face without touching me." Carrie's eyes widened. "She can manipulate human bodies? What kind of weapon?" "Swords, with no failsafe." Anna watched Carrie pause as uncertainty passed over her face. "I'm worried about the agency. Someone inserted a vulnerability in our weapons, which is how Zhao and Ben disabled Lisa's staff. When the deal with the MMDs went south 2 weeks ago, it was because the seller knew we were onto them. A traitor in our ranks is working against us. That's why I'm here meeting my mater, the one person I'm certain I can trust. I have a lead, but I need to be able to follow it." Carrie shook her head. "If Zhao is with a better way, we'll get her. The whole organization is going down. The order went out this morning." This revelation stunned Anna, both because she'd been so focused on studying the recordings on the trip back to Houston that she'd missed the news, but also because of the rushed timeline. They'd found the letter only a day ago, and in less than 24 hours they were planning to make arrests. The letter was damning, but surely no one had verified its authenticity this quickly. Who is running the operation? Is ADTA looped in? I don't know. Guerrero told the entire office this morning, excluding you and Lisa, for obvious reasons. There are multiple agencies to coordinate, as they want to take the leadership down in a single stroke and not give them a chance to run. But the point is, we will bring in Zhao along with the rest of them. If she has a non-failsafe weapon, we'll find it. I need you to come back to the agency." Carrie's eyes searched beyond Anna's shoulder as she tensed and shifted into a combat stance. "You and your mater. Lucas, sweep the room. I'll ensure Anna stays put." Anna's body grew taut, preparing to fight even as she hoped it wouldn't be necessary. "Carrie, that isn't—" Her words were interrupted as the room exploded in a flash of brilliant light, pieces of wood and plastic deflecting off the barrier her service weapon had erected in response to whatever had happened. Instinct caused the staff in her hands to deflect the blow that soon followed, Carrie's staff sweeping at her. Instinct again shuffled her feet to put Lucas in view. He was advancing on her, shaky and uncertain in the wake of the blast, as his eyes scanned the room with a wild sense of alarm. Anna's brain worked furiously to catch up to events, realizing her mater had created this distraction in order to attempt an escape. Carrie had recovered first and intended to take Anna by surprise, but hadn't been quick enough. Lucas had abandoned his post at the door, so if Anna could keep her opponents busy, the mater had a window in which to get away. She launched into her own attacks, starting with a perfunctory jab at Carrie to put her on the defensive, then focusing a strong thrust at Lucas to exploit his sluggish recovery. Lucas brought his staff up to meet hers just in time, but wavered unsteadily, still off balance. Anna pressed him relentlessly, driving him back until he collided with a wall. Sensing motion behind her, she bent down and ducked, feeling Carrie's staff rush above her, the movement of air whipping hair across her face. As she straightened, the telltale signs of a door disassembling and reassembling told her she'd accomplished her goal. With no intention of fighting her fellow agents any further, she drew her right hand down the length of the staff to wipe it, then let it fall as she threw her hands up. "I'm done. Don't strike." Carrie halted her attack, staff inches from Anna's head. Her eyes glanced at the door, then flitted to Lucas. "Go after her. I'll take care of Anna." Lucas recovered and moved beyond Anna's vision, then grunted with annoyance. "She sealed it with falsified tags. I'll need a second." Keeping Carrie in her peripheral vision, Anna rotated slowly, hands still raised above her head, to watch Lucas and his attempts to open the door. After a few moments, he got it to disassemble, but by then it was too late. The mater had gone. Carrie blew out an irritated breath. "Oh, that was unfortunate. It's only going to make things worse for you." Lucas turned away from the door in frustration and moved to where Anna's staff lay on the floor. He picked it up, disassembled it, and stored it at his waist. She had a sense of déjà vu from the bank, but this time her staff was being taken. Bringing her hands down, she shook her head. "We're all on the same side here. We shouldn't be attacking one another." Carrie lowered her weapon and grabbed Anna's arm. "I didn't set off an explosion. You and your mater are the ones who chose to turn this into a fight." Anna wrestled her arm out of Carrie's grasp and stepped back. "You don't need to handle me. I'm coming to the office and doing it on my own. Remember that." Carrie pursed her lips, then nodded. "Fine. Then don't make any more trouble. We'll sort it out with Guerrero." Carrie and Lucas escorted Anna to the agency interview room. Guerrero and Jada were waiting there for her, sitting behind a table and watching as the three agents entered. Lucas had taken Anna's data lens, so she already felt at a disadvantage. Guerrero peered past Anna. "Please restrain Agent Flynn." Anna glared at her. "I'm not a threat. I came here peacefully." Guerrero continued to look past her. "That's not what I understand from your fellow agents." Anna opened her mouth to protest, then snapped it shut, unable to deny the truth. Engaging Carrie and Lucas had crossed a line, but what else could she have done? She couldn't allow them to take in her mater. Carrie hesitated behind her, then placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Sit down, Anna. I have to do this." Helpless to do otherwise, Anna lowered herself into the hard plastic chair and put her hands out over the table. Carrie gestured, and the restraints encircled Anna's wrists, interlocked with a ring built into the table. Watching this as if through a fog, Anna felt the trap closing in around her. Guerrero waved her hand in dismissal. "You may go, agents." After Carrie and Lucas left, Guerrero finally locked eyes with Anna, her face grim. "Come on, Agent Flynn. Surely you can't be surprised. You assaulted your fellow agents, and we now can prove you've been employing a criminal mater. Agent Yang told me you even handed evidence over to her." Anna chose her words carefully, realizing the futility of denying what Carrie and Lucas had reported. "I had a good reason for what I did." Her eyes swept the room. "I believe someone's working against us from inside the agency. When I gained control of an enemy asset, I had to take it somewhere else or risk compromising my advantage." Guerrero scoffed, incredulous. "Your defense is that you fear a rogue agent within our ranks? From where I sit, you are that rogue agent. Tonight's events made that clear." "Tonight's events happened because you came into this office and interfered with something that's been working for years now." Anna pulled her hands up as far as she could, constrained by the chains around them, and motioned to Jada. "You could have talked to Director Davis and respected how we operate as a team, that we were doing the work of our agency's charter. Now, MMD agents are fighting each other instead of the real enemies." "My accusations, as you call them, were spot on. You have been using illegal mods, and tonight you took your transgression to the next level. On top of that, it's evident you've been doing some side work to cover for your patron, Councilwoman Shaw." Anna's forehead wrinkled. "Cover for what exactly?" "For instructing Feeney to design MMD hardware without a failsafe." "That's insane!" Anna turned to Jada. "What's she talking about?" Jada didn't respond, and Guerrero produced a printed sheet of paper and placed it on the table between them. "We have this. I'd ask you to read it, but I'm sure you were already aware of what it contains." Anna looked down and pulled the document closer. "I have no idea what this is." She started to read. "Agent Flynn, thank you for your service. I cannot tell you how grateful I am that you saved my life. I will forever be in your debt. But our job is not done. My enemies are intent on destroying me, if not by bombs, then by smear tactics. It has come to my attention that your agency possesses a vid implicating Feeney in the creation of a MMD weapon with no failsafe. Of course, I know nothing of this and would never endorse such an action, but if that vid were to be made public, I would be crucified by association. It would set my initiatives with Feeney back several years. This needs to be dealt with. I have spoken up for you at your request, and now it is time for you to return the favor. Please do not include Agent Williams in this. I want to keep this as quiet as possible. With thanks in advance, Savitri Shaw." Anna raised her eyes back to Guerrero's, pointing outrage into her stare. "Did you write this? Because I've never seen it before in my life." "Of course you have. This came to me from Washington, and I assure you, if they say Shaw wrote this, she did. It's a shame you didn't bring the message to me when you received it. I couldn't bring it to you because I didn't know about it, and even if Shaw had sent this to me, I wouldn't have acted on it. If you recall, I tried to stop the vid from being deleted. Except you didn't. Anna frowned, suddenly wary. No, I didn't. But I was first on the scene and had to face 2 opponents alone, one with a more powerful weapon than mine. And isn't that convenient? No witnesses, no recordings, Simon offline. It's all very complicated to think Zhao and some other mysterious hacker got into our data center when the simple answer is that you walked in, maybe accompanied by your modder, disabled our security, and deleted the vid yourself. Anna reeled at the accusation. That's ridiculous! Why would I do that? Guerrero indicated the paper on the table. Because you owe her. But now, we're going to flip this. We have the evidence against her, and she'll fall. Anna said nothing, still trying to wrap her head around Guerrero's words as the director continued. So you see, your ally is implicated, and because of this, you have to stand alone. Let's consider your situation. You've been operating with illegal mods and refused to tell us the identity of the modder who found an agency vulnerability. You have been employed by a politician to delete evidence implicating her in a crime. You took a weapon from a crime scene and put it in the hands of a criminal, even engaging in combat with agents from this office. Do you think this looks good for you? Anna sat in silence, staring down at the table in front of her. After letting several seconds pass, she looked up at Guerrero, summoning fire into her eyes. Why are you doing this? This is justice, Agent Flynn. Anna turned to Jada, pleading with the woman she considered a friend. Do you think so too? Do you think this is just? Am I a criminal? Jada returned her stare, her expression a confusion of guilt and despondence. Anna, I can't help you. That message from Shaw is damning, but to attack Carrie and Lucas, it's out of my hands. Anna tasted the acridity in her mouth. I understand. Just to be clear, if anyone had ever questioned your loyalty or called you a criminal, I'd be in here with you before I'd accept it. Jada looked silently back at Anna, regret written on her face. Guerrero's tone took on the quality of an appeal. Justice is complicated sometimes, but you, Agent Flynn, are not politically savvy. You've gotten wrapped up in something beyond you. You don't need to go down for Shaw. She nodded at the paper. You can do the right thing and stand up to her. You've seen what Feeney is doing and understand it needs to be stopped. Shaw is the one who protects them. Anna shook her head. I don't want Feeney creating weapons capable of manipulating human beings any more than you do. She pointed to the cut on her cheek. I've already faced down a non-failsafe weapon, and I understand how dangerous it is. I will speak out against any development of that tech, but whatever Shaw does or doesn't know, I didn't act on her behalf. I never saw this message. You can't flip me because there's nothing to flip. I don't believe you. Tonight demonstrated how far you'll go, and I have no reason to think you wouldn't do the same for Shaw. Guerrero sighed and looked away, staring at the wall. Oh, I think you were good, Agent Flynn. Your record speaks to your skill, and so does Director Davis. But somewhere along the line you got in too deep, enjoyed the success too much, compromised yourself. She brought her eyes back to Anna's, her face made of stone. You broke the very rules you were supposed to enforce. Anna flushed. I can tell you this, Director Guerrero. My only goal has ever been to bring criminals to justice and keep innocent people safe. You didn't put yourself between Councilwoman Shaw and an exploding bomb. I did, and I don't care what you or Kathleen Redmond think about yourselves. Maybe you are capable of destroying key evidence to honor an alliance, but I'm not. While you're playing your political games, it's people like me who put our lives on the line. Guerrero's forehead creased with apparent incredulity. Director Redmond? What does she have to do with this? Because you answer to her. Anna's tone was as cold as ice. She's probably the one who wants me locked up. Jada held up a finger of warning. Anna, be careful. Guerrero ignored Jada's gesture, her eyes full of danger. That's a serious accusation, Agent Flynn. Director Redmond doesn't even know who you are. She trusts me to do my job. We're all about serious accusations today. The difference is your power gave me these. Anna lifted her cuffed hands. But we'll see who wins in the end. Guerrero nodded confidently. Indeed we will. She paused. Is there anything else you want to say to me, or are we done? We're done. I suppose it's time for you to throw me in jail. As you wish. At Guerrero's signal, a guard from the containment lockup entered the room to escort Anna away.
Daniel sat in his tinker room, eyes unfocused, not looking at the device in front of him or the display he'd brought up on his data lens. It was late. Jason was asleep, and he hadn't heard from Anna. Ever since he'd arrived back home, his worry had kept him distracted, especially since he didn't have a way to contact her. Her data lens appeared to be offline. The sound of the apartment door chime interrupted his thoughts. Frowning, he checked the outside feed and saw Director Davis waiting, a sense of urgency in her body language. Dread shot through him, and he rushed out of the room and down the hall. Of all the answers which might have addressed his fears, Anna's boss standing on his apartment doorstep portended the worst among them. He quickly disassembled the door to find Davis looking as if she'd aged several years in the past week. Deep lines marked her face, and her hair had started to fray out of the rows he'd only ever seen kept neat and ordered. Without preamble, the words tumbled out of his mouth. What's going on? Where's Anna? She shook her head, apparently lost for where to start. When she did speak, her voice was anxious and strained. Anna's been arrested. Daniel drew back, astonishment and confirmation both washing over his body. I see. It was a stupid thing to say, but he couldn't come up with anything else. A tense silence hung between them before he found the question that had been with him all night. What happened? She shuffled and looked around. May I come in? He responded with an awkward nod and turned to gesture at the living room. I'm sorry, of course. Please. She stepped in, took off her coat, and sat in one of the chairs. Daniel reassembled the door and joined her, lowering himself into the chair's twin across a small coffee table. Davis inhaled a long breath and shifted in her chair. I can't give you any details. There's an ongoing investigation, but the bottom line is she's in the containment lockup. Containment lockup? It's like our private jail with extra security to prevent the kinds of people we arrest from hacking it. He leaned forward, concerned. Is she okay? Other than being angry, she's doing fine. There was a minor scuffle, but she gave in quickly and no one was seriously injured. That's good. How long will she be there? It's impossible to tell. Guerrero is calling the shots, and if she pushes, it's likely that Anna's looking at prison. Daniel's heart sank. So this is for real? It's not a ruse to scare her? It's real. When Guerrero first came, I didn't know whether her threats had much in the way of teeth. But the evidence now, it looks bad for Anna. Some things have piled up. Can I see her? She nodded. Yes, tomorrow you can, at least. It's too late for visitors today. Okay. Daniel straightened, rubbing his eyes. He couldn't think of anything else to say, so they sat without speaking. He and Anna had discussed this. She'd said Guerrero had threatened to arrest her, but he hadn't thought it could really happen. A sudden flash of anger hit him, and he fixed Davis with his furious stare. She trusted you, Director. Her eyelids flicked down toward the floor. I know, Daniel. I know. I consider your wife a good friend. She's a good agent. If I could have stopped this... Her words trailed off. Is this just? She peered up at him. It's the law. They'd left unsaid the implicit truth. The law is not always just. He nodded, breaking eye contact and looking away. She's always done what she believes is right, and she's willing to break the rules. I've not always agreed with her, but I've tried to support her. Of course you have, Daniel, and she's always been grateful for that. Daniel thought about this, mulled it over in his mind. Doubt was a heavy fortress, and always had been for him. He lived with a perpetual mixture of fear and awe at Anna's passion and sense of conviction. When she wanted to drive ahead, he always found a reason to pull back, and when she kicked things into a higher gear, he slowed down. Somehow, for 16 years, they'd made it work, finding a balance between their natures. But now he sat here without her, and walls of doubt began to buckle under the force of determination. Because he was determined and could think of only one path forward. His eyes met hers. "Director Davis, thank you for coming to tell me in person." "Of course, if there's anything I can do, I'll call you." She eyed him for a moment before breaking eye contact and standing up and taking her coat. He rose with her, disassembling the door. She turned back to face him. "Daniel, take care of yourself." He didn't respond, and she left without saying another word. As the door solidified behind her again, he returned to his tinker room with grim resolve. His eyes drilled into the device on the workbench, the sword hilt Anna had given him at the transport station. He'd intended to look through the programming to understand how it had been coded, hoping to glean clues that would help him write new mods to protect Anna from Zhao's weapons. But now he thought it held something else he needed, a way to gain entry into the basement of the agency building. Zhao's weapon had some kind of authorization or hack to get into the data center, and if hers had it, he assumed her soldiers' weapons did too. He would take this knowledge and use it as his own, not to get into the data center, but into the containment lockup because he intended to break his wife out of jail.